Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David, and welcome back to We Are Tottenham TV, where the gruesome twosome will take you all the way to the live walkabout. I am not talking about Benji or Simeone. I am talking about David Jack here. And also, the live watch along will take you to the post-match fan show. So, plenty of content here for you guys today. Also, feel free at any time to smash that like button, subscribe, or get in a super chat, or even use them member chats, and I will bring them up and we'll have a good discussion on it. But Shawnee, brother, how are you keeping? You ready to take 3 points off the Tin Pot Toffees today?
I'm always ready to take 3 points off any team, my man. I'm excited. I'm pumped up. Hopefully we can get everybody's energies rallied and riled right high. Because if we win today, Dave, am I right in thinking that if we get the 3 points, this is the best ever start for Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League era?
Ever start. 2011, 2012, we started with 22 points at this stage in that season. So if we win today, it'll take us to 23. So it'll be a best start ever to a season. Sean, what does that come down to? Does that come down to Antonio Conte? Is it a reflection on a transfer window? Why do you think we've had such a good start to the season?
That's a tough one. It's a tough one to start us going, mate. I think obviously Antonio Conte breathes calm and confidence into the team. He drills them hard in the preseason, gets them obviously with the late Gianpiero Ventroni, getting them to the peak of physical fitness, making sure that every player knows their role specifically and trusting the players to deliver every time. Obviously, our home form has been phenomenal. We are talking about a new reputation here to have a fortress. I think it's 6 wins from 6 or 7 wins from 7 now.
7 on the bounce. We can make it, I think, 8 on the bounce today at home.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I do think, just talking about it, I mentioned it a second ago, that player roles and that kind of specificity, I think it's something that I've come to really admire and respect. And now I understand a little bit more why it is that maybe Tottenham we haven't seen some of our new players coming in like Bissouma too much. When he has come in with that specific role, he looked a little bit like sluggish and struggling, whereas Højbjerg and Bentancur obviously are doing their job. He talked yesterday in the press conference about Eric Dyer and the kind of inability or the lack of desire to rotate unless he absolutely has to, because Eric Dyer's role is so specific. And I think that the players that we have, whether you like some of them, whether you hate some of them, the reason why we are third in the table and sitting top of our Champions League group is because I think the players that we have are understanding what Conte expects from them, and they deliver more often than they don't.
100%. I want to touch on that, and I want to go on to another stat about today. But Shawnee, what you were saying there, that the noise around Conte is starting to quieten down a little bit in terms of, fans are starting to see the methods to his madness, starting to show a bit more patience this season. Would you say that's accurate? And what do you think that's down to? Is that down because maybe he has shown the likes of Bissouma, Spence, he has been right to maybe not give them as many minutes as fans as expected because they're not up to speed?
Yeah, I think Bissouma has been the best template for that. And I don't want to come heavy on Bissouma because I have absolute faith in the kid that he's going to become a long-term superstar for Tottenham Hotspur. And when we do need to go to the 3 in the midfield, and maybe we'll do that today, we'll talk about that no doubt in a minute. But when he's come in, he's starting to look better. But, you have to be honest, if we're going to be fair and talk about things as we see them here. For me, Bissouma has looked positionally quite naive in the West Ham game. It wasn't really noticeable in the Leicester game, but certainly in the Frankfurt and Brighton games, he did look a little bit kind of out of sorts positionally. And I think that for me is the template that made me start to recognize, okay, when we're asking him, why isn't he playing these players? That maybe there is a method to his madness. Of course there is. He's a genius at what he does. But maybe that explains also the same thing with Jed Spence. A lot of people are frustrated with the persistence with Emerson Royale, and they're wondering why we haven't seen Jed Spence. I'm starting to now come to terms and be comfortable with the idea that maybe Jed Spence, just like Bissouma, isn't quite ready yet. And I think people like Brian Hill is another example. I think Brian Hill was, he's been patient, and when he got his chance, I thought he played pretty well in that cameo. And there was positive words to be said from Conte in that regard. I think the other thing about that kind of noise, sorry for the rant here, but I think
I'm enjoying it, Shani.
The other thing about the kind of calming around Conte, I think the reason why there was a little bit of frustration with it in the first place was in no small part because people were annoyed that Arsenal have started the season so well, and it's kind of taken the shine off of what has otherwise been a pretty phenomenal start to the season.
Mm.
If it had been Liverpool or somebody else that was in second place right now, I think that Tottenham fans would have been a little bit more happier, if I'm honest. As sad as it sounds to say, it does spoil the broth a little bit that you see that our biggest rivals down the road have started just a little bit better. And the other thing I think that was annoying, for me at least, with Conte was the inability to try different formations. And now that we've seen that he's loosened up his strings a little bit on the reins with regards to sticking with the 3-4-3, even if it's not necessarily working, seeing that he's capable now of going to 3-5-2, I think it's kind of calmed everybody down that had those kind of hesitations or frustrations. And now we know that we have plan B, we have a plan C, and we have players that are capable of coming in and doing a job. And I think it makes us feel a little bit more kind of reassured in that regard.
100%.
What are your thoughts?
Do you know what? I'm delighted the noise has calmed down a little, because what I was seeing is early signs of what we started doing under Jose, questioning absolutely everything he does. We've got to realize, we're seeing it from an outside perspective, and everyone's entitled to their thoughts and their opinions, I think. And it's fascinating because there's some things you can pick up off people that maybe you might not necessarily have picked up. So I agree with everyone having their opinions and stuff like that. But we also have to have an understanding that Antonio Conte sees these guys every single day in, day out. And whether it's calling them out in the press or speaking to them privately, there's a reason why he does it. Whether it's consistent with players that maybe fans want to see rotated, we've got to understand there's a reason why he does it. The guy is the one in training every day. We only see clips, so it's kind of like you've kind of got to trust the guy. And I'd much rather trust this guy, because it's only going to get worse after him. What happened after Jose? We ended up with Nuno. What's going to happen after Conte? We're going to end up with some other guy that's underwhelming. Probably Fonseca will be back in the running. And I definitely don't want that. So for me, I'm glad it's quieting down. I think we just have to get used to having winners at Tottenham. Yeah, they may not do it the way we like them to do it, but it comes from a winning. Everything they do is calculated and comes from a winning sort of perspective. So I think we've just got to maybe show a bit more patience and also understand it's hard to bleed 6 players in. Like, look at Nottingham Forest. They brought in 20-odd players.
Yeah.
They're struggling. They also sacked the guy that was in charge of bringing them in. And they can't get any sort of cohesive performance because performances going together. I think they've got the biggest squad in the Premier League. I believe there's 40-odd numbers dished out this sort of season. So, I think we've done it. I think we've done it okay. We could have done a bit more, but I'm glad we didn't go with the method of bringing in 15, 16 players here this summer, because it's not FIFA. It's not Football Manager. You can't just change your whole 11 for a cup game or to rest players and expect everyone to go out there and play the way that the other 11 did. Like, you've got to understand that in real life, you've got to learn other players' movements, how they like to receive the ball, what runs they make, this, that, and the other. So there's a lot more to it when you're bringing in 6 players. And in the top team, 6 players is an awful lot of players to be able to put in there in the right places. But what I will say is, where I back Conte, even though he's in the process of doing that, he has us sitting 3rd in the league. Yeah. Now, on top of the Champions League group. So I think teams are going well in that aspect, Shawnee. Now, Shawnee, we've, like we were talking about, we have won 7 successive Premier League home games on the bounce. Today, we're looking to make it 8. Now, the longest winning streak we've actually had at home was the 14-match streak we had in November 2016-17. If you remember that season, it was the last year at White Hart Lane. We went unbeaten at home, and we were in a title race because of it. Even though we ended up faltering out and finishing second, it catapulted us into a title race. Can we replicate that home form now at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, considering Conte has players, fans, everyone's sort of connecting? Can that now happen at this Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and make it a fortress like we're starting to do?
14 wins on the bounce was what happened in 2016, was it?
Yeah, but we went the whole season. We went the whole season unbeaten at home. But
14 of them in succession were all wins. Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that. That's quite the stat. Listen, well, I mean, possibly. I don't see why not, right? Like, I think Tottenham are capable of beating anybody on our day, away or at home. Obviously, we know the frustrations of playing Chelsea away and Arsenal away, usually where we slip up. But everybody else, we're capable of beating away from home, let alone at home. At home, we are an absolute beast. And I think that the general noise around the stadium right now, maybe even with the stadium naming rights deal, everything seems like it's going in the right direction. And that kind of positivity does kind of breathe through and does kind of diffuse into the fans at the stadium. I think what we need to do, I think the only thing that can ever really slow us down with our home form is, I do think that Tottenham fans at home have the capability of getting frustrated if things don't go our way. If we're drawing or in a bad state at halftime, I think that sometimes it can like the impatience and the frustrations can kind of be felt. It's the consequences of having a stadium that is built to amplify the sound. It amplifies both good sound and bad sound. And so if Tottenham can start the games well on the front foot and get in at halftime with a lead, then generally speaking, I don't think there's any reason why any team should come to Tottenham and feel like they've got a chance of stopping our incredible run of form. 14 is going to be, I mean, I think in the next, what is that? We've got 4 more games at home, including today before the World Cup. And then I think after the World Cup, I think one of the first few home games will be against Manchester City. So that's obviously a tough one. But yeah, maybe. Who knows, man? Why not? Why not?
Who knows? Look, City is known as 3 points. No, it's a rule. They don't beat us. Look, it will be different this year, but they don't beat us over the last few years. It's proven. So maybe we can go to 14 in a row. That'd be nice. But look, I think today is important as well because it's the way form that sort of lets us down. Like we win 2, draw 1, and win another 2, lose 1. And we have to learn to start putting 4, 5, 6 games on the spin. And I think that's where people really start to stand up and take notice of Tottenham. Because so far this season, we've only done 2 on the spin. If we win today, it'll be the first time this season we've done 3 on the spin. But we need to do 4. We need to do 5. So hopefully we can start accumulating them wins. Big up Dean Looney. I hope you enjoy the game. He says he's off to the game today. Hopefully you enjoy it, brother. Make sure you're loud and proud and sing our boys to victory. Now, Shawnee, I want to talk about the starting lineups because they'll be out in 11 minutes' time.
Yes,
I mean, look, we're going to start with personnel because I think the big debate every week is the 3-4-3, 3-5-2, and there's only so much we can keep talking about the formations. Personnel, Ben Davies didn't get any minutes against Frankfurt. Perisic didn't get any minutes against Frankfurt, and neither did Matt Doherty. Do you expect all 3 of them to slot in across that back line today?
If I'm entirely honest, Matt Doherty 100%. I do think he's going to come in. Perisic for Sessegnon is a divisive one for me. I know that I've mentioned this 1,000 times. I won't keep banging the drum, but I do think if we're playing in a 3-4-3, Perisic and Sonny in the same team doesn't particularly work very well unless you have equal balance on the right-hand side that will draw the opposition players into making equilibrium in the way that they press and have their presence in the team. If we have a weaker right side with Emerson or with Richarlison up top, I don't think that Perisic and Sonny works on the left. So if we're going to go 3-4-3 today, I'd rather see Sessegnon with Sonny because I think that Sonny's form is more important than who we play at left wing back. I'm entirely honest. And I think that Sessegnon's played well recently. I don't think that Perisic is particularly better than defensively. I think that Sessegnon is clear of Perisic. And going forward, like I said, I know Perisic has got a few assists generally from set pieces and things, but for me, I think that Sessegnon and Sonny work as a better combination. So if it's 3-4-3, then I want to see Sess. But to your point, he didn't get any minutes, or Perisic didn't get any minutes, so maybe the rotation will come in and you'll see Perisic in. If we go 3-5-2, oh, sorry, mate, go on. Yeah.
Do you think Sessegnon will be rolled out 3 times in 7 days, knowing his long, extensive injury record that he's had?
It's a really good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. So it probably makes more sense to
saying that, though, Sean Dyer will be king, will be son, will be so. Could he?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think the key difference is what you just said about the injury record, right? Like Sessegnon has got this propensity to go down. He plays 6 or 7 games and then he takes 6 or 7 games out. So you do have to manage that kind of fragile body of his. And Eric Dyer, listen, we spoke about it already. Conte's already said if he has got the option to put Sanchez or Romero into that spot, but he doesn't want to because in any event it's going to be an experiment. If Eric Dyer is not playing, we would have somebody in that role who doesn't usually play there, whether it's Romero, whether it's Longley, or whether it's Sanchez. And at this stage in the season, I don't want to see us experimenting with formations in must-win games like today. So, and the last thing you asked about Davies or Longley, look, for me, I spoke about this yesterday on my channel. I think that Longley's clear. I like Longley. I think he's getting better and better with every game. And I don't think there's any reason why he should be exhausted or need a rest. I just think that, if you're playing in a back 3, you're not really exhausted. It's not the same, like the amount of effort and exertion on the left side of a centre-back role as somebody like a Højbjerg or a Bentancur that have got to cover the entirety of the pitch and usually got to compete with 3 people for there too. So I don't think there's any reason to rotate Longley out. But to your point, Davies hasn't played in a few games now. And, it might happen, but I don't really want to see 4 new players in the team. It will for me, break a bit of rhythm that the team has started to create. What are your thoughts?
I think you're spot on. I was about to say, Sean, I think that's why we haven't won 3 on the bounce. We're tinkering a bit too much. I know people have accused Conte of not rotating, but he was doing it. He was doing Lenglet for Davies. He was doing Richarlison for Kulu. He was doing Perisic for Sessegnon. So there was rotations, even though we were acting like there wasn't. But for me, I think that's a massive reason why we haven't done 3 on the bounce. There, like you said, Sean, there's a clear difference between Lenglet and Ben Davies. As good as Ben Davies was last season, and he's been an okay servant at Tottenham, Lenglet is more the modern day footballer, more the modern day defender. He's got better passing range. He progresses the ball out better from the back, and it's a noticeable drop off when he doesn't play in that position. And I think it's well and good trying to keep some players involved and stuff, but challenge Ben Davies to be better on the ball and make him work in training. And when you think he's better on the ball, bring him in. I don't want to see. I want to see Lenglet, Romero, and Dyer rolled out. I think it's absolutely crucial to what we do this season. I think I want to see them rolled out. Sessegnon or Perisic, I don't mind too much with the rotation. I agree with you. I think in that left wing back position, until Perisic proves that he's undroppable, I think you've got to roll out the player that suits Ronaldo the best, because Sonny is going to get you goals. We know this. So for me, I think with Perisic, we was talking about this last night, Sean, because he's so offensive-minded, he takes up a lot of the space for Son to operate in. So he takes up the space that Son would have to peel off his man running behind. He takes up the space where Son has time to get the ball on his feet and use space around him to be able to skim players, whereas when Perisic is up beside him, that space is closed off. So I do think we have to do what is best for Sonny. So for me, I think Matt Doherty's has cert, but a lot of journals reckon that Jed Spence might see some minutes today. So that'd be very interesting to see if he comes off the bench. I would like to see him. And we'll take a couple of comments here from the chat. Dean Looney says, guy on the left, it's Dave, my man. He says, you from Wexford? I have a family in that neck of the woods. No, my man, from the beautiful county of Kildare. Horse racing county of Ireland, home of the army as well. But that's where I live, my man, County Kildare. Look it up, great county. Especially, it's even better for me being in it too, if I'm being greatly honest. Stephen says, Dave, what's your prediction? Look, Tin Pot Toffee's got smacked 5-0 at our place last season. We will get into this after the lineups come out. They are better than what they were last season. We will talk a little bit on Everton, but there's no reason why we can't put another 3 by them today. Expose the high line that they seem to like to play. And then Faz Radfar says, Lampard will park the bus this time. Be prepared. Look, I'm going to hold this one back, Faz Radfar, for after the lineups, because lineups are out in 5 minutes. So I'm going to continue talking about personnel and lineups. I'll hold this one back and I'll bring it back up after lineups are out, buddy. Big yourself up. Shawnee, we'll move into the midfield now. I think when you look at it, Everton, they've got a real hard worker, energetic midfield. Although I don't like Iwobi, he's playing well in the middle. You've got Onana, who I've watched this season, affects the game defensively and offensively, very box to box, a lot of energy. And who's that other idiot that plays in there with them? Gay. He plays as well. And again, before he moved to PSG, he was phenomenal for Everton, running around, picking up the ball, playing people. So they've got a very hard-working, energetic midfield. But we know Zinedine Salzburg, and yes, you heard me right. I said Zinedine fucking Salzburg. The guy's been absolutely unbelievable lately, a.k.a. Højbjerg, Pierre-Emil Viking, whatever you want to call this guy. He's been absolutely brilliant this season. I think he's picked up his game because he's doing so much better going forward. Outside Pedri in the top 5 leagues, he has the most pre-assist to the assist, which is the pass to the assist. So it shows that he's breaking the lines a lot more with his passing. He's becoming a lot more effective. He's got 3 assists and 2 goals to his name, which shows he's a lot more effective going forward, where he hasn't been maybe in years gone by. Bentancur's been absolutely superb. If you look at his numbers, he is key to picking up the ball, keeping it moving left to right, moving it on quickly, but also winning the ball back. He's got the most tackles in our team, second for ground jewels, 1, etc., etc. So they're being superb. Sean, do they have the energy and the combativeness to be able to cope with this Everton tree, who do provide high energy, considering in the past we've proven that we have struggled against a midfield tree? Do you think on this occasion we might actually need an extra body in there?
I don't think we do need an extra body, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it. I think that if you were to put, and I know that a lot of it, I've seen a whole bunch of different predicted lineups today from people that are in the nose or whatever, and and some of them are saying that we're going to go for a 3-man midfield and put Basuma in the holding role in the 6, and then allow Højbjerg and Bentancur to have that more kind of free-flowing role like they did against Brighton. And I'm not against that. I tend to think that at home, against teams like Everton, I think we should be able to do it. Højbjerg and Bentancur have come up against 3-men midfield, 10 times this season in various formations and in various games and various competitions. And most of the time they still come out on top. But, look, it's so important. I do think that today, we can go and win this game comfortably, but I'm not worried about the offensive line of Everton. I'm not worried about Neil Maupay if he's playing. That guy can't hit. He gets lots of opportunities, but he always balloons it over the bar. Damari Gray is a tricky player, but doesn't really, for me, have the finishing product. And they don't have Anthony Gordon. He's suspended. So for me, if we are going to get ourselves in trouble, it's going to be from getting bossed in that midfield battle. And so there is a rationale, in my opinion, to say, let's go 3-5-2, allow Højbjerg to play a little bit more forward like he did in the Brighton game. And then the absence of Richarlison and you have Sonny and Kane, that then, in my opinion, would also justify bringing Perisic back into the team. Because the one thing I didn't say is that Perisic and Son work just fine in the 3-5-2. In the 3-4-3, it's too cramped. In the 3-5-2, it does work and can work. And so I'd be more than okay with seeing Bissouma come in to give a little bit of support to make sure that we don't get bossed by Iwobi and by that Gueye guy, however you say his name. And if we do that, and we do that competently, then I think that we can easily go and put, like I say, 3 or 4 past them. For me, it's not so much about the, like I said already, it's not so much about the Everton threat. It's really about just making sure that that Højbjerg has the ability. He's not penned in and just doing the defensive work. If he's allowed to play with the ball and get creative and move the ball forward, then that's the way. That's the trigger for me to win the game.
Do you think Højbjerg being penned in then was the problem earlier on the season, where the forward line weren't doing anything with the football, so it was coming straight back? Do you think that was the problem with the midfield earlier on the season, then Højbjerg being penned in and not being allowed to express himself going forward like he has done?
Yeah, I don't think it's something that was predictable. Like, most people wouldn't say that Pierre-Emile Højbjerg had that creative spark in him. We've only ever seen him being the boss and being the kind of, the 6 or at best an 8, but not even really, certainly nowhere near like a 10 role. For his country in the Euros, he did have that kind of more free-flowing position, and he did take the ball forward. And he got into really dangerous positions. And if you remember, we were all sitting there thinking, like, why don't we see this Højbjerg for Tottenham? But this season, he's exploded and become this player that I guess we didn't know he had it in him, that he can find those wonderful passes. He can do those little dinks over the top. And you can't do that if you're constantly pinned back behind the halfway line and battling 3 men, battling 3 men at the same time. So we need to rely on Bentancur to do his job. If Bissouma comes in, then the pair of them can feel free to go forward. And then I think you'll see Højbjerg with an assist today, if that happens, because I do think that he's not a player that I think that most other teams would also set up to necessarily prepare against. Most of the teams are going to spend their week, preparing and running drills about what's the threat. Well, it's Harry Kane, it's Sonny, it's Decky if he's playing, and maybe it's Perisic on the left, but no one's preparing for Højbjerg to slip into the 8 roll to the box-to-box position and then find that little last-minute pass or through ball. So, again, unpredictability, lack of ability to prepare, all of these types of things are key, in my opinion, to be able to overcome tricky games. And Højbjerg being a little bit further up the pitch for me is something that it flies under the radar, but it's proved to be very valuable for Tottenham this season.
I couldn't agree more, and especially on the part where you don't think that the opposition is necessarily going to set up a plan to stop him. I think you're absolutely spot on. But Shawnee, the lineups are out. I'm going to call them out. If you want to share them in the background, you can. Hugo Lloris is in goals. He is captain. Matt Doherty starts at right wing back. Romero, Dyer, and Davies. So Davies comes in for Lenglet. We'll get on to that in a minute. Perisic also comes in for Session at left wing back. Rodrigo, Bentancur, and Højbjerg form a midfield 2. So it is a 3-4-3 with Richarlison, Son, and Kane up top. And we'll read out the subs bench here now. And the subs bench is obviously Fraser, Forrester, Davison, Sanchez, Clement Longley, Spence, who, like I said, many journalists predict he's going to see minutes today. Session, Skip, Bissouma, Brian, Gil Messi. By the way, where all them people that said to me he didn't have technical ability on abundance when he came off the bench. And, of course, the one and only Lucas Moura. Sean, initial reaction, initial thoughts, this lineup, 2 changes. Davies in for Lenglet. 3 changes. Perisic in for Session. And, of course, Doherty in for the suspended Emerson.
Yeah, it's as you predicted, mate, at the start, right? All of those 3 changes. I'm okay with it. Like, I think we've got enough there. It's not the 11 that I would have picked. As I said, I wouldn't have changed Davies for Longley. I wouldn't have had Perisic in instead of Session. obviously, and we were expecting to see Doherty back in. But yeah, it's not the 11 that I would pick. But listen, I think we've got enough about us to be able to still take this on comfortably. And I think we've got a lot, it's nice to look at the bench and see that we've got, areas to go to. It's good to see Lucas Moura back. You might, if we need him, maybe he'll be able to come on and do something in the last 20 minutes or half an hour. Yeah, look, exactly as you predicted it. It's not what I would like to have seen, but I'm okay with it. How do you feel?
Do you know what? Look, Doherty, I expected. I'm no complaints. Just quickly on Doherty, a lot of people called for him to come in because he'd be better going forward. I don't think I've necessarily seen that against Brighton. Hopefully today he can actually show why people have called for him to come in, because he is better going forward than Emerson. That's what I want to see. Right now, I'm not so sure he is, so hopefully he proves me wrong on that. Look, Davies in for Perisic. Look, you know what you're going to get from Davies. Solid defender. He's going to put his body on the line. He's definitely going to help out. But I think where it might struggle is progressing the ball down the left-hand side very, very quickly, especially into likes of Perisic, Sonny with a bit of space. We've seen at times this season, Son can make in a run in behind. Langley can play him in along the side. Ben Davies doesn't have that ability. So I actually expect a lot of ball to end up at Ben Davies and come back across out to the right-hand side, if I'm being brutally honest. And then when I look at Perisic, look, you know how I feel about Perisic, Sean. I do agree with you that. And look, so with the stats. A lot of the stats also say, with Session playing, I don't think we've lost this season. And it's kind of like he does suit some better. But at some stage, Perisic needs to step up. I've been a bit underwhelmed with what he's brought to Tottenham so far. Yeah. A lot of people may be suggesting that he's still struggling from his injury. But I do expect a lot better from Perisic. And today's maybe a chance where he can prove it. And maybe a chance, Sean, where he can put to bed that actually I can't play with Son. We're two world-class players. We're going to work it out.
Well, listen, I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love it if Sonny goes and bangs in a hat trick today, and Perisic is on the assist or vice versa, whatever. I'd love to see a solid performance. It's going to be interesting. Like I say, I think I don't want to bang on too much about this particular relationship because I don't think it's a personnel thing necessarily or in its entirety. I do think a lot of it is also because the opposition are set up in a way when Emerson's on the right and Richarlison's in front of him, the opposition say, let Tottenham have the ball on the right-hand side because Emerson is the weakest player with the ball at his feet. And so they naturally compress over to our left-hand side and just create less and less space. With Matt Doherty on the right-hand side tonight, it will be interesting to see if there is more balance to the way that Tottenham play the ball and also the way that the opposition set up when they don't have it. Are they going to be more balanced and be more wary about Matt Doherty? I'm not sitting here suggesting that Matt Doherty is levels and levels above Emerson with the ball at his feet. I don't think he is, but he is probably more competent and probably more confident with the ball at his feet and probably can whip balls in and be a little bit more dangerous. It's a real shame for me. I'm really devastated to hear about Decky's, recurring knock because I think I've been so looking forward to seeing the re-emergence of Doherty and Dejan Kulusevski. The best football that Tottenham ever played under Conte was in that period between the middle of February and April, after Decky joined the squad and before Doherty got his injury against Aston Villa. And, there was so many wonderful moments between those two and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg just doing natural triangles and just working their way down the pitch before Decky would eventually whip the ball in and do it. We saw it in so many different games. So for me, it's a real shame that we didn't get to see that today. And I really hope that Decky's not out for any real length of time because we've got Manchester United coming up on Wednesday. And that is, I think that's Wednesday, is it? Or is it the sporting
Wednesday,
game?
Wednesday away as well.
Yeah, so I mean, to get something out of that game, I think we need to see Dejan Kulusevski, unless Richarlison can put in a bit of a better performance, because the only other issue I have with this system, I just don't think Richarlison is very good on the right-hand side. It's far too early to make a judgment call on him. We haven't seen him in the 9 role, which is where he plays for Brazil. And I don't know what it's going to take to see Kane have a rest and Richarlison get a go there. But for me, Richarlison on the right it hasn't worked. And once again, I hope I'm wrong. And I hope today he puts in a shift and makes me eat my words.
No, look, I severely hope so as well. And look, I said on my show, unless it's Endom Lardas or Harry Winks, I don't actually get enjoyment calling out players, unless it's them two. But look, at the end of the day, it's the players it's what they do on the field, which is the reaction that fans give, whether it's critique, whether it's praise. It's because of what they've done on that field. And for me, Richarlison has been a bit underwhelming. I think as a professional footballer, he should be able to calm it down a little bit and do the basics. If you can't play these first-time balls, instead of keep losing it and trying the same thing and getting the same results, take it in, get it under control, use your body, spread nice and big in front of defenders, hold it up, play other people in, and calm it down a little. And he has been underwhelming. I also think it hasn't been fair on him. I think when you look at it, we brought him in here to be back up to Harry Kane. He's been unlucky because Kulu and Lucas have had the injuries, so he hasn't been afforded the same time as maybe a Basuma, as a Spence, or even as a Langley, where he's had more time to get up to the tactics. I think he's just been thrown in there because of the injuries he had. So maybe I have been a little bit harsh on him, but I do also expect better. I do expect better. And in games like today, where you're playing against a team that you used to play for, I'm speaking from experience, you want to go out and show that team you made the right move to take a step up. You are good enough to take a step up. You are good enough to play at a team at the top half of the Premier League. Richarlison has played at Watford and Everton, teams that have both been down in relegation. So it's a big step up. It is going to take time. But hopefully we can start seeing it today, because he's had a good run of games. And with Lucas Moura coming back from his injury, Kulu might be available for United. We have to wait and see. There's pressure on the guy. So he has to take this opportunity today. And I think I speak for all Spurs fans that we want to see him take this opportunity today. The better Richarlison and the quicker he gets up to speed, the more benefit it is for Tottenham Hotspur. So that would be absolutely ideal. Just to this comment here, I actually think Perisic does have assists. I think he's got three or four assists this season. To be honest with you. But big yourself up. But Sean, a little bit about Everton today. And now, last season,
one sec.
No worries. Last season, we spanked them 5-0 at home. Absolutely spanked them. They played a really high line. Now, in fairness, their defence has sort of changed. It's tightened up, which I can't believe. It's the third best defence in the league. But when I look at it, they got countered twice against Man United and end up losing the game as a result. Played a really high line. Last season at our place, they played a really high line, and we just put balls in behind. Now, I'd actually argue this time they've got less pace in that back line than what they did at home last season, because they've got Connor, not the quickest. James Tarkowski, not the quickest. Coleman, the guy's 34, 35, not the quickest. So for me, I would actually be looking at getting down that left-hand side, trying to get in behind Coleman, trying to get in behind Tarkowski, but more concentrate on the middle and the left-hand side. I think that's where we'll get a lot of joy. But look, let's see the Everton lineup to make sure I'm correct. Pickford in goals, Coleman at right back, Tarkowski, Cody in the middle with Mikalenko. None of them guys are the quickest, Sean. So do you think Fat Frank will actually come here with another high line again? And maybe because from his generation, Spurs had a soft underbelly. So if you just put the pressure on top of them, they used to crumble. Whereas now it's a bit different under Conte, but Frank would still be in that mindset. Do you think he will play that high line, and that high line is actually something that will benefit us today, and we can exploit and maybe slap more goals by them again?
Yeah, it's a tough one, mate, because, on the one hand, he's a very intelligent guy, Frank Lampard, right? And it blew my mind last year. Fat Frank. He blew my mind last year when he came and tried that setup against Tottenham, as if they were capable of being able to sustain us. You'd hope that he would learn his lesson, or we hope that he hasn't. But at the same time, Everton are in fairly decent form, right? I think they're undefeated, or one defeat in the last 7 games in all competitions. They're kind of draw specialists at the moment. But the only game they've lost recently is against Manchester United, and even that game wasn't particularly that they weren't overran. I think they were robbed of a VAR decision or something, which could have changed the game. So they'll be coming to the game today full of confidence. They've suddenly crept up the table. They're mid-table now, whereas a month ago they were in relegation battle and looking like they were going to go down. Obviously, think still early in the season, but for me, I don't think that they'll play with quite as high a line today. I do think whoever it was in the comments earlier who said that Everton will come and try and park the bus, I don't think they'll do that either. I think it will just be a very frustrating and stubborn affair that they'll try and squeeze the life out of the game in the midfield. I think for them, it's all about winning the midfield battle, and if they can do that, like I say, with their forward line of Damari Gray, McNeil and Mope, I just don't think that they're particularly dangerous. I like Damari Gray. I think he's a very good player, and certainly one of the best bits of business that I've ever seen. £1.5 million that kid cost. Absolutely insane. Sorry, mate.
I think with Damari Gray, Shawnee, I think he does some wonderful things. Like, you could see him pick up a ball, beat 3 players, slap it in bottom corner. But then he frustrates me an awful lot as well. I think that's why he finds himself at somewhere like an Everton, because
Yeah.
he had his chance in the Bundesliga. And I think it's his consistency. And in a way, it worries me today because you don't really know what Demarai Gray is going to turn up. Do we get the Demarai Gray that frustrates everybody? Or do we get the Demarai Gray that shows glimpses of being a real quality player? Hopefully, it's the one that frustrates people. Dwight McNeil,
he'll get spanked by Romero early in the game because he attacks down the left-hand side. So I think he'll try and dribble past Romero. Romero will just shoulder him or something, you know.
Oh, Sean, we seen it there the other day. He has to clatter somebody in the first 5 minutes for us to see the real Romero. So hopefully we let Demarai Gray go at him and he just runs at him and just balls over him. Dwight McNeil, haven't really been too impressed by, if I'm being brutally honest, from that signing from Burnley. I thought he would have produced a lot more. I think he's been underwhelming. The Mope, I mean, that guy wouldn't hit a bar in a pub, if I'm being brutally honest. I think he's absolutely shambolic. I don't know. I think obviously they had to go for a striker, but
I don't think he's Premier League quality. When he was he at Southampton last year? Brighton. Yeah, I knew it was South Coast. Yeah, whenever I saw him play, he'd have like 9 shots in a game, and every single one of them would be. He's like he's playing, I don't know, like Aussie rules football or something, where he thinks that he gets a point for knocking it over the bar. It's insane how woeful he is. I'm saying that now, probably giving him the kiss of death, and he's going to go and score a goal today. But I'm not threatened by him. And like I say, Demarai Gray, very tricky player. I take your point. He's hit or miss, hot or cold. But the rest of that team don't. If Tottenham come out and are in any way on the back foot, we shouldn't be. There's no excuse. Tottenham need to be confident. We're at home. We've got an amazing record, and we're playing against the team that, they're draw specialists at the moment, but they're there for the taking. We just need an early goal to settle everybody down. And then I'm going back to this thing, the 3-4-3. I am surprised a little bit because I do think that Frank Lampard, Fat Frank, will set up to try and win that midfield battle with those three, Onana, Iwobi, and they haven't got Guay playing, have they? They've got Garner playing instead.
Yeah, no, that's the same.
It's the same guys. Sorry, different names. Yeah, sorry.
It's a 3-barrel name. Idrissa Gana Gay. So,
sorry.
But do you know what, Sean? If he does sit back, I think you make a great point there. Faz Radfar says, will Lampard park the bus this time? Be prepared. Look, maybe he probably will. I think maybe you're spot on. But if he does, Sean's right. An early goal is so important because the longer the game goes with them sitting in there and drawing this game, the more encouragement they're going to get when they do break out and go forward. They'll start sniffing that there's something there for them. And with Spurs' record over recently and Conte's been going mad about, they're not killing teams off. Yeah, towards the end of the games, we've already conceded 4 goals this season. You could take that to 7 or 8 if you include maybe 75 minutes onward as well. We concede a lot of late goals. We switch off. We concede from set pieces where when I look at Everton this season, I have a real problem scoring goals, but they are a threat from set pieces. So their kind of strengths are our weaknesses, and it'd be a very interesting game in that aspect. But Sean, you're right. It's up to us. Be on the front foot. Put yourself in the ascendancy. If they sit low block, I don't want to see any of this passing it around, trying to play through the middle. Get the ball out wide, beat your man, put it in the box. That's how you beat these teams. They're going to block up that middle. The 3 midfield, the 2 centre-backs, they're going to sit there. If they sit in, they're going to sit there across the centre-backs and protect. So there's no point in trying to play through the middle, feed Harry Kane all the time.
Yeah.
Get the ball to Richarlison, get the ball to Son, Perisic, Doherty. Get them out wide, get them to beat their man and put balls in the box, because what they're not set up for is getting in behind them and swinging balls across. And that's the way you get at them and beat them today. So I think that's actually a crucial point, Sean.
Who do you think is the most, like, outside of Harry Kane and Sonny, outside of the front 2 or front 3, who do you think is playing today that needs to put in an absolute shift? Like, if there's anybody there that we need to look to have a standout performance, maybe it's a Ben Davies with his ability to distribute the ball. Somebody that's outside of the front 3. Who are we looking for a monster?
I'll be honest, Sean. I think it's all 11. If I'm being brutally honest, and we've only started to sort of click the last couple of games, but before that, it's been average enough, but still winning games. So I think Højbjerg and Bentancur crucial. You don't win that midfield battle, we're more than likely going to lose the game, and you're giving Everton confidence where you don't want to give it to them. So I think them to continue their form is crucial. Matt Doherty has a massive point to prove today. You want that right wing back spot? Nail it today. 100%. Perisic, you want that left wing spot? Nail it today. Ben Davies, you want to be ahead of Langley in the pecking order? Nail it today. Dyer made a massive mistake against Frankfurt, has a point to prove. Romero, some people have questioned his ability, has a point to prove. Hugo Lloris, numerous mistakes this season. People question his leadership, captaincy. Is he past it? Another point to prove. Along with Kane and Son. Kane can't catch Haaland. Point to prove. Son, are you now starting to decline, or are you the same player that we know you are?
Yeah.
Point to prove. Go out and prove it. For me, I think he's still the same player, of course.
Yeah.
Again, point to prove. Go and do it. Richarlison hasn't played well. Point to prove. You want to nail down that right wing spot with Richarlison, or Richarlison and Lucas coming back, nail your performance today. So everybody out there has a point to prove, Sean, today. Yeah. Everyone. And we need 100%. We have to expect going into these games, Sean. We're now challenging for right now, as it stands, and I know Spurs fans are going to say, Dave, you're deluded crazy. Don't care. You can call me that. I'll take it on board because maybe I am a bit deluded and crazy. But what I will say is, whether we like it or not, as the league stands, we're in a title race. Every game is going to be big. Every game is important, and we need every player, all hands on the pump, performing, because we see under Jose Mourinho, once some players start seeding off, it crumbles. So we need everybody to be at it. Every game is going to be big this season as long as we're in a title race.
100%, mate. I love every word you just said then. Look, on top of that, today is the day when we could close the gap or change things a little bit, because if we win today, the pressure's on Arsenal tomorrow. They've got to go to Leeds, not an easy fixture away. Playing away at Leeds with that home crowd in Ellen Road is there's a lot of pressure in that result. And then of course you've got Liverpool and Manchester City, which obviously we're not seeing the same Liverpool as last season or the previous years, but Liverpool at home against Manchester City, they'll find a way, or maybe they will, maybe they won't. But either way, there's a chance there for Manchester City to drop points and a chance for Arsenal to drop points. And I'm not looking at the teams beneath us. I'm looking only above us right now. So we absolutely have to win. For me, the people I want to see a big performance out of today, I agree with you on everything you said about those players, but I actually want to see a big performance from the referee, because the last 4 or 5 games that I've been watching with you on your watch longs, mate, the referees have been absolutely shambolic, not booking players that deserve to be booked, like in the Arsenal game. Early yellow cards change games, especially if you're in the midfield and you pick up a yellow card, like Eric Dyer did against Frankfurt. I mean, it was probably a smart decision. It was a cynical foul, but he had to do it, because otherwise the player was through. But that was in the first 10 minutes. Eric Dyer's then rattled, can't make a mistake, at least can't make another foul in a dangerous position. That's on his mind. That maybe played into why he received that first touch so poorly for the goal that was given, the goal that we conceded. Against the play, against the referees this season, for me, have made shocking decisions in terms of giving yellow cards or giving red cards to us when they haven't been deserved or been unjustly or overly harsh. And the other teams haven't been receiving the yellow cards, the red cards, or the fouls when they should have been. I want to see a more consistent and better performance from from the referee. And even if the referee doesn't, I don't want to see a key player like a Højbjerg or a Bentancur or somebody of that in that middle of the park get an early yellow card. If they get like Bissouma, for example, Bissouma picks up I know he's only played like 4 games, and I think he's got like 4 yellow cards. He's got a yellow card in every single game he's played. Usually he gets those yellow cards within a few minutes of being on the pitch. That is too disruptive to your mindset. It doesn't allow you to play with the freedom and the confidence, because you've always got to look over your shoulder that if you make one mistake, then you're off and you're ruining the whole game for the rest of the team. So I want to see it, considering how important this midfield battle is today. I really want to see the 2 boys in the midfield do their job, hit them hard, but tackle fair, and make sure the timing is good. Because if you do get a yellow card to one of those players in the first half, it makes the job 10 times harder when you're already battling 3 players that are good, capable, competent, strong midfielders that Everton have. I
couldn't agree more, Sean. Could not agree more, brother. We're going to take 2 comments here from the chat, and then we're going to crack on. Where are they gone? So we've got one from here. Easy Craig, Rickard, big yourself up, my man. I hope you're keeping well. He says, we ain't in no race, I'm afraid, unless you count the race for second. Look, I think if you look at it long term, I think you definitely have a point. I think, look, it's going to be hard to catch Man City, but it is a World Cup thrown in, and these seasons tend to throw up some crazy. So I wouldn't put it beyond the realms of impossibility. But we also have to understand, if any other club was sitting 4 points off the top, 3 points off the top, it's considered a title race. So why, when it's Tottenham, it's not considered a title race? That's what I want an answer to. Why is it when we're sitting 4 points off, we're not in a title race, but when any other club is doing it, they're in a title race? And then we have Daytona. He says we can't become one of those who blames referees. And I actually do agree with you, but we also can't be naive to the standard of refereeing. Like, we've got to remember, they brought in goal line technology, they brought in VAR to try and improve the product, to try and improve the game, to make it a bit more speedy or whatever it may be, but more so to improve the game. So then the referees have to be better then. If the referees were competent, we wouldn't have needed VAR in the first place, and to be honest with you. So although we don't want to fall into a trap where we are blaming referees, and I agree with you, we can't sit there and blame referees every time. Sometimes when the referee's against you and you're not getting decisions, you have to clamor together as a team and say, okay, it's fucking 12 odds. We're away. It's 13 men today, but we're going to stand up like fucking lions and go out there and show them we can't be beaten. But we also can't be naive enough, and as fans, you should be demanding better referees, because they brought in VAR and everything else, which disrupts fans and the way they view the game and stuff like that. So the referees also have to be held accountable to the standard they're producing at the minute. When I look at it, I think it's the worst I've ever seen. If I'm being honest,
I just want consistency. I just want to know early in the game what sort of, like, I understand that referees play subjectively, and I'm not saying that Tottenham necessarily. I know that every club will always remember the ones that don't go their way and forget the ones that do. I get it. I'm not naive to think that that's not a consistent thing. But I'd like to know within the first 5 minutes whether the referee is a ref who's going to let the game flow.
So we know when they walk out, all you got to do is look at the hair. If they've got the line combed to the side, down, you know. They're here, like you said, Sean, they're here to wave to mommy. Look at me, I'm on Sky Sports. And you just know they're going to be whistle happy. You just know it. A guy that walks out with maybe no hair or receding hairline or something, he's there to do a job and referee the game, because he hasn't thought about what am I going to look like when I blow that whistle. He hasn't thought about it. You just know
100%. No, 100%. Like I say, all I want is consistency. I just want to see a referee that comes out, and in the first 5 minutes, if you let something go, then we know that's the standard. Okay, today you're a bit more liberal, right? You're not going to slow the game down unless you have to, or if you unnecessarily blow your whistle, then okay, we've got a referee who's a little bit tighter. Just be consistent. I don't then want to see and worry about the flip flops. And I do think over the last month that it's been an incredibly frustrating affair. I don't want to spend any more time talking about the referees because it's much of a muchness, but it was more just around, the point I was making was more just around, I don't want Tottenham to give away in key positions an early yellow card, because I do think that does sit on the back of the mind of the players, and it does limit what they can do. And if we can get through to halftime or whatever with a clean bill of health in terms of the bookings, I do think that kind of helps with the ability to just play your best football.
Couldn't agree more. And I think you're right. Consistency is key. You look at the Frankfurt game, some of the inconsistency, you drive you mad. I mean, honestly, like, we had to beg him to get a penalty. Son was a penalty. 2 minutes later, Harry Kane. I mean, it's a rugby tackle. It's a rugby. If that was done in rugby, they'd be sin binned. You know what I mean? It's like, how's it not a penalty? It's just.
And he forgot to send somebody off. Until he got told in his ear about 5 minutes later.
Had to go over to him and say, do you not remember booking this guy 30 seconds ago?
It was 30 seconds ago. It was 30 seconds ago.
Ridiculous. And then Hesabi should have been sent off as well. But he said, no, do you know what we'll do? We'll let you make a substitution instead. Ridiculous cause. Dean 100%. Looney, big up yourself and Scott. Said people are in the Bricklayers watching us, which, look, fair play. Bricklayers, great spot, by the way. Shout out Bricklayers, great build up to games, especially to do a good job on away games for fans that maybe can't go to the away games. Good atmosphere, good music, good crowd there, and everyone. It's a good day out. I spent there at the North London Derby there, but big yourself up, Dino. But Shawnee, look, maybe we'll wrap it up. What's your final thoughts? And we'll let you plug your channel, of course, but what's your final thoughts heading into this game? Kick off in 5 minutes time.
Yeah, can't wait. I'm excited. I expect Tottenham to get on the front foot from the get-go. I think that Tottenham, if we can get an early goal, if we're 1-0 up inside of 25 minutes, half an hour, I think we go on to win the game 3 or 4-0. If it's a nervy, cagey affair and we're 0-0 at half-time, all I would ask is that the guys at the Bricklayers, Dean and Scott, for example, you guys and everybody else, keep that energy up, keep that noise up, because it's a super important 3 points, and we need the best from the players, and they play the best when they've got the support and the wind in their backs from the chants from the South Stand and the general Tottenham Stadium. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Like I say, it's I don't think it'll be an easy game, but I do think we can, if we play to our best, we can come away comfortably, 3-0. That's the bet I'm going to have on Betfair in about 5 minutes' time. And as far as my channel, Spurs Talk Show is the name, all one word, on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Would love it if anybody here who hasn't subscribed, just even if you don't like me, just show some support to the fan channels and click on the link and drop us a follow. It'd be really, really very much appreciated. Cheers, Dave.
100%. The link is in here now, guys. So make sure you get over, smash that subscribe button. You know, he does a brilliant job on these pump-ups, gives up his time to come here, talk Tottenham and get everybody revved up. Those that are around the world that maybe aren't lucky enough to go to games or whatever it may be, he gives up his time to come here and try and get you guys pumped up for the game, but also help pass time until kickoff. So make sure you get over there and show the guy the love in return. I think Shawnee actually makes a brilliant point about just because we're not at the game doesn't mean we can't have energy. It doesn't mean we can't shout at the TV screen, you know, sing songs in front of the TV screen or in the pubs or whatever. Let's get a good energy around this fan base. Teams seem like they're going in the right direction right now. Let's continue that. As fans, we've had a lot of dark moments over the last couple of years, a lot of pissed off moments over the last 20 years. Now that teams seem like they're going in the right direction, let's give it the energy that it deserves, but also that we deserve. We deserve things to be going in the right direction. We've hung in there long enough. So let's fucking enjoy it while it's here is what I'd say to people. Now, guys, you can find me over at the Irish Hotspur. Same thing as Shawnee. Even if you do not like me, fine. I get it. I understand.
Everyone likes you, Dave. Everyone loves you, mate.
No, but I understand, you know, I'm not the easy. I understand. I'm like Marmite, Sean, you know. But guys, I would love if you could get over and smash that subscribe button. At the end of the day, you know, I'm just an average lad, just like Shawnee, trying to do the best to put some Spurs content out there and represent Tottenham Hotspur Football Club in maybe in the way that we see fit. So, guys, feel free to get over there and smash that subscribe button and help us out. But, guys, most importantly, if you are new to this channel and you've enjoyed it, this is here every single game. It doesn't matter the caliber of the opponents. We proved that last season. We were doing it here for fucking NS Mora. Does not matter. We're here every single game. So make sure you smash the like on these streams, smash the subscribe on this channel, and stay tuned for the watch along on the post-match fan show. Everybody, go and get the beers out. 3 points coming against the Tin Pot Toffees and Fat Frank. Let's get the job done, and hopefully we'll see you all after at some stage. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Conte we trust.
Bye.
Bye-bye.